Welcome to FOBtv, the future of business. I'm your host, Kevin Benedict, and I want to thank all of you for joining today. My guest is Mimi Spier. Mimi, thanks for joining.
Kevin, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Now, Mimi is the Chief Strategy and Marketing Officer for Molecula. That's how I say it, right?
Yes, Molecula, you got it perfectly right.
Now, Mimi and I have been together for interviews for several years now. You've recently joined Molecula, and there's all kinds of cool stuff I want to learn here. So again, thank you for doing that and joining us today. So we're in the middle of a pandemic. How are you adjusting to that, Mimi?
Yes, you can see my living room, and this is my office every day where I spend my time. So, I changed jobs. So I was at VMware, as you know, running the Edge and IoT business. And it was right before the pandemic, which I started. It was actually December. So I had a couple months to acclimate before the pandemic. But my whole world really has shifted because at VMware, I was out of the country about a week out of the month and traveling the world and, was barely at home. And now I'm home all the time. And so we're in the middle of a pandemic and I'm working in a startup. So my life has changed quite a bit, I would say.
Your whole world has turned upside down.
Yeah, exactly.
A lot of that's in my role as well, traveling at least probably 2 weeks or a good part of 2 weeks every month. And now I've been home for a long time.
It's been a while. Yeah. And we're calling it cabin fever a bit at this point, but we're trying to make the most of it for sure.
So tell me how it is kind of moving from that giant company that VMware was to a startup.
So, it is a very big change. I was running a very small business unit at VMware. It was a startup within VMware. So I kind of joked around because every time I needed to get funding, I had to go in front of e-staff and ask for more funding, for more headcount. And I had very specific milestones to achieve to get that funding. And so it's not too different where we're kind of going to the VCs and asking for funding and kind of getting to the next round at a startup. So it is similar in that sense, but having the backing of a big company and being part of a big culture is very different than, being very early at a startup where you are creating your own business and you are, really defining what that business is and having a huge impact. And it's super invigorating, but it's also a roller coaster. Some days are better than others, but you do feel that sense of ownership and that sense of it's up to you to make it work. And so that's pretty exciting.
When I look back over my own high-tech career, it's been like 30 years now. I've kind of gone big company, small company, big company, small company. And you go from using everything Google, so, Google Docs, Google Sheet, Google everything, and running to FedEx all by yourself and doing everything.
Yeah.
And having a support staff and having policies and processes, and then going back to a Google environment.
That's right. It's funny because I had not used Google. I was a Microsoft person.
Yeah.
And one of the things I was most nervous about was not running strategy, marketing, and business development. It was getting used to the whole Google, Google Slides and Google Docs and Google Sheets. But it honestly it is so easy. I would never go back. So that's funny you mentioned that.
I say that, but then, my career's still going. So who knows? So
you never know.
About the problems that Molecula solves, Mimi.
So one of the main reasons I really came to this company is because the very unique way that Molecula solves a very big problem. So if you look at data, and we're going to talk a lot about data today because that's what Molecula focuses on. When you look at data is distributed everywhere. We knew about data at the edge from IoT, and now data is distributed in every cloud. And every organization, whether it's an enterprise or mid-market, or no matter what size you are, even a startup, you are needing to leverage as much data as possible to be competitive. And you are leveraging kind of data and analytics as part of the most strategic thing you do, but it's going to be data coming from everywhere. And today's technology really is not set up to bring a massive amount of distributed data together to do real-time analytics. So the whole opportunity for real-time is very difficult. It's complex. It's, slow. It's not truly real time, and it's not cost effective today. So the problem that Molecula solves is really getting into that next generation analytics where there's a massive amount of data. It's distributed in many locations, And the expectation is real time. And so you cannot pre-process and pre-aggregate and pull all your data and put it in cubes and do all these other things to it, because you're defeating the whole purpose of real time. So Molecula actually enables that.
Wow. So talk to me about the security you guys have to build into that to go to a distributed environment, because everything's going to be different, isn't it? You're going to have different
Yeah.
requirements, different securities, different logins, different everything across all those different systems. How's that accomplished?
That's right. Well, a lot of companies, so everyone's doing, let's focus in on kind of analytics. Everyone's doing analytics differently. Some people are trying to access the source systems in all of those diverse locations, and they're trying to then bring back queries and analyze across these data sets. That's actually too slow. That's never going to scale. It is never going to be real time. It's only going to be as fast as those underlying data sources, whether they're distributed or not. So what Molecula has done, and this will also answer your security question, is we have invented a new data format. So Molecula is a data access platform. It is based on the open source project called Pelosa, which is a new data format. And think of, almost like a database, if you want to think of this data format. And it enables you to store representations or relationships of data in a much more efficient way that has a much more lower footprint. So it's set up, from the start to be very optimized for advanced analytics and for very, very large scale amounts of data. And because it's a representation of the data, so it's actually just taking the relationships from the source system, but not the data itself, it is actually not really the data. It's just zeros and ones. But it turns out, and this is where, our patents and, a lot of our technology, unique technology comes from, is it turns out when you query directly on these relationships, they are wicked fast, like 1,000 times faster than any other type of analysis, like OLAP cubes or analytic data lakes, or any other columnar-based data analytic approach. This new approach is 1,000 times faster, and the footprint of it is about 10 to 100x smaller, because you're only taking the representations. You're not pulling the data itself. So it turns out it can do all these great things and enable all these, unique real-time analytic use cases, leveraging data from anywhere.
So Mimi, on LinkedIn the other day, I was following you and your company, and I just read that you guys won an award. It looks like the Ventana Research's Digital Innovation Award in the data category. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so we're thrilled that we won that award. We're getting a lot of attention from analysts in general, so we're very excited about that. And I think, the reason why we won the award and the reason why we're getting this attention is because of this unique data format that turns out to have all these benefits for more modern advanced analytics. And today, most technology, we haven't had an advancement in data technology for over 10 years. If you look at when SAP HANA came out with columnar databases and in-memory databases, that was over 10 years ago. And most of the technology out there is based on columnar and Hadoop technology. And so what our technology is fundamentally different. It is an invention. We have 9 patents and several on the way. And so we're thrilled that Ventana, recognized us. The finalists were MemSQL and Neo4j, so other very, very strong data companies. And we ended up, winning in our category. Some of the other winners in other categories, were Oracle and ServiceNow. So some pretty heavy hitters in their space as well. And then the winner last year was Databricks. So we feel very good that we won this award, but we also, want to tell the world about this unique technology that will allow for powering analytics in a much more simple, much more fast, and a much more cost-effective way. So it's truly an invention that we're pretty excited to win this award.
Well, congratulations for that. Now let's talk tactics as well. What organizations are most, attracted to that kind of technology?
I'm glad you asked that. So what we're finding, what's interesting is it's mostly, to start with, customer-facing applications. So if you look at application providers, or if you look at even enterprises, almost every enterprise has their most important applications, which are the ones that are customer-facing, that are really trying to understand and interact with customers in real time. And so whether it's in healthcare and it's doctors' applications interacting with patients, trying to do more accurate and fast diagnostics, whether it's in retail, whether they're trying to do more personalized experiences or real-time personalization based on behaviors. If you think about those use cases, those are bringing data in from social and from online and from brick and mortar retail stores and any information you can get about your customer, and then being able to serve that up and make predictions and decisions in real time. That's an example, but it really is powering the more advanced real-time analytics in customer-facing applications, is what we're
I
saying.
can absolutely.
Financial services, by the way, another big one. Credit scoring, credit, being able to identify, should we give them the mortgage? Should we approve their loan? Should we, approve whatever transaction is?
What about the defense and intelligence industry? To me, it seems like this would be something very attractive to them.
Yeah. So you mentioned COVID, and, everybody wants to do their part during COVID. I feel very lucky in my situation where I have a job, I'm in technology that can actually help in these environments. And so one of the first things we did actually was reach out to some of the more federal institutions that we knew needed more real-time information during COVID. And I can't talk a lot about the details, but we are involved in several organizations who are using a massive amount of data, being able to respond faster, being able to identify, which locations need which types of resources and things like that. So we are excited about that opportunity. But as a startup, we also want to have lots of, fast interactions. All of those are very long-term projects that, can suck you in. So we want to be really careful to be a startup that's, have lots of customers in production, and we get profitable, but we get very successful very quickly.
Oh, that's so exciting. With all of that, Mimi, I want to thank you so much for sharing your insight from Molecula. And it's very exciting. I'm going to be watching the company. I'm going to be following you and listening for all the new developments. So thank you for joining and sharing today.
Thank you, Kevin. It's so good to see you. I hope you and your family are doing well. And yes, I look forward to future times. And go check out Molecula and see what you think. It's exciting.
Thanks, Mimi.
Take care.